Work at Home Moms Strategy Hour. We're excited to have you joining this Work at Home Moms Strategy Hour, where we have with us a very special guest. Sara Sutton-Fell is the founder and CEO of FlexJobs. And so we're going to find out today all about how to find a legitimate and very excellent work-at-home job from the creator and founder of FlexJobs. So today's going to be really exciting. I'm going to be asking Sara all kinds of questions about this, but I'm going to let Sara introduce herself a little bit.
Sure. Hi, Susan. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Sara Sutton-Fell, and I started FlexJobs about 7 years ago when I was pregnant with my first son and looking, and like millions of women, looking for a job that would allow me to stay in my career path but also have more flexibility for my family. And I quickly discovered how difficult that was. At the time, to be honest, I was fairly open to what kind of work flexibility I was looking for, whether it was a flexible schedule or a part-time schedule or a consulting arrangement. Telecommuting and working from home was definitely one of the main areas I was interested in, though, as well. And that particular niche, I quickly learned, had about 60 to 70 scams for every one real job. And there's a lot of stress involved. It's very time-consuming. There's a lot of scams. It's really pretty dismaying. Additionally, because so many of the jobs listed in there are pretty low-level jobs. Some of them, even if they're legitimate, they often are associated with data entry, which is a great legitimate job, but it was not my career path. So I set out to create a site that would provide professional opportunities that offer some kind of flexibility, every single one of which on our site is hand-screened for legitimacy.
That is just so phenomenal that you guys that you took that initiative and created what now has become this amazing resource for so many women. I absolutely hear what you say about the scams and the whole thing. I've been working at home in sort of some capacity, but generally in the building of a business side of it, because again, where would you find a job that really fit into your career? So a decade ago, I left my career as a software developer and a business consultant to find something to do working from home. And like you said, I don't think FlexJob existed yet then.
Not quite.
So, yeah, you weren't quite on that. How long ago was this that it started?
7 years ago. And a little bit more about my background, I guess. When I was in a unique position when I saw this opportunity, or when I saw it as an opportunity, the frustration and just feeling like there should be an easier way to find these jobs was an opportunity for me. But I wasn't probably the average job seeker in that I had actually started and run an entry-level job service back in the mid-90s. So we started pretty shortly after Monster did, and with a young friend and I were 21 at the time, dropped out of college, did this whole adventure, grew it quite substantially, and sold it to a public company in 2000. So I had a very unique background for this type of thing, and from day one I knew that one of the big differentiators that we wanted to do was to do it with integrity and to absolutely focus on the job seekers as our #1 client, because that was my experience. That's where I was coming from in this experience myself with the frustration, and I wanted to make it easier for other people.
Well, I love the way you've just focused on the legitimacy thing of it. That is the most frustrating part of this whole world. I mean, you can kind of see it goes even on the other side for when you're now as an employer, myself, sometimes if I want to hire someone, you know, how do you trust and know them before? Now, for me, when I'm running my company with 5 Minutes for Mom, or when I own my toy stores and was hiring, I'd usually be going through the blogger sort of network and finding people that I could see their social profiles and really know who they were that way. But otherwise, it can be really hard from an employer to find and trust someone they've never met before either. So it is such a great service that you can provide that trust on both sides. I think trust is such a huge factor.
Yeah, trust is, you know, when we looked at the landscape in the market, we weren't the first site out there serving the work at home niche. Most of them were a bit smaller and either focused in verticals that were associated with historical jobs like data entry or virtual admin, those types of things.
Or medical transcript writing, which is like the main one.
Exactly.
Always medical transcript stuff.
Which, there's a lot of great careers in medical transcription and other kinds of transcription, but I saw it as something that could be for any woman or any person who wanted work flexibility, and there are a lot of different reasons people want it, men and women alike, but for people like me at the time, women were the most highly educated and underutilized audience in the U.S. This is before the recession, but still, it still stands. And to be able to find jobs that would be in line with the career paths of those women, because study after study shows that many moms want to go back to work part-time or with a flexible schedule if they're able to better juggle their family. But in many careers, you're not able to do that, or it was very difficult to find those full-time jobs. Those jobs that would allow you flexibility and have some kind of professionalism and career path. Basically allow you to, in many ways, to be earning as much as you need to cover childcare.
Exactly.
A very common mom problem, family problem.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, I am so thrilled to have you on board. So let's get into some of the meat of this. So now, when we're going to talk about where to look for a home-based job, now, quite obviously, I guess the main answer that comes out now is FlexJobs. But can you tell us a little bit about the landscape of what else is out there? So tell us a little bit, if FlexJobs didn't exist, first of all, tell us a little bit about how you honestly feel today, where the rest of the internet and everything else is at, and then we can talk a little bit more about FlexJobs exactly and how you would use it. But tell us a little bit about, if FlexJobs didn't exist, what still is out there.
Absolutely. So there are tons of job services out there, obviously. What happens on most of them, if you're looking especially to speak to this topic, for work at home jobs, is that some of the different job boards will have a work at home or work from home category. Most don't, but you can do keyword searches for work from home or work at home. Although, to be honest, I recommend not using those keywords quite as much. They are scam bait, essentially, and actually the FBI listed work from home as one of the top 10 scam words a few years back. So we recommend using either telecommuting, telecommute, remote, even virtual and online, depending on the role, and searching with those keywords in your job title. But so I would go to job boards or services that you already trust. If you already have a monster profile, search there. Sure, go for it. See what you find. Try to be as specific as you can in the area or category you're looking for, or job titles. And I would also try industry niches, so niche sites. So if you know that you're in marketing and you're looking for a marketing board, look at marketing boards. If you have any career services tied to your colleges, look at their alumni job boards. Really use your network and go. But first, go to the job boards you trust and like. See what you can do looking with those keywords. And in general, I don't know if you'd like me to get into scam tips now or later, but there's a lot of things to avoid when finding these job listings as well, especially on the sites that do have work at home categories, because they're the ones that a lot of those scammers really come and try to populate with jobs.
Exactly.
You'll see usually hundreds of them.
Scammers are out there. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, they bury the real jobs, and that's one of the other challenges. And when I started, I knew that these jobs existed. I mean, the technology is clearly there for telecommuting. And the challenge was finding the legitimate real jobs underneath all of the scams and too good to be true business opportunities and ads that are mixed in on most of the sites.
Exactly. So yeah, I want to take just a second here to point out that what you're talking about is finding a job, not a business, not a business opportunity. Now, when if you're deciding to work at home, there are the two main options. You start a business or you find a job. I absolutely highly recommend the job angle. It's just that generally it's been often very hard to find. So, I mean, when I began working online, I joined a direct sales company, and I did build a business that way. And it's very, very hard. And I, in doing that, spoke to so many hundreds. And I speak to hundreds of women. I had a big team of different women. I was building a Melaleuca business. And I would build that I built that first in my local, with my local network of people that I knew, but then I soon took that online, and that's how I ended up getting involved in everything online, and how I created toy stores and began with 5 Minutes from Mom. But one of the things that I really found is when I talked to all these hundreds of different women on the phone and listened to what they wanted and tried to help them, what I really struggled when I was trying to build this Melaleuca business is that 95% of these women that I spoke with were not real candidates for creating a business. They needed a job, right? And creating this direct sales business. Now, I'm not putting that down, okay? No. I created a business. It is absolutely an option, but it is only for maybe the 5% that really want to create a business and don't need that immediate cash flow. When you want a job, you want to work some time and then get paid. Right? When you're creating a business, you're not going to get paid right away. So it's a huge, huge difference. And so today we're not focusing on business opportunities, we're focusing on jobs. And so this is how you find a job where you will work time and get money.
Yes, exactly.
Which is definitely, I think, really a great approach for if you're first thinking of, oh, I want to earn some income at home. Instead of trying to think of, oh, I got to create my own website and build up a whole business or do whatever, first try to find a job working at home, because that is the best way to get paid in a reasonably timely fashion.
Yeah, I think the landscape has changed dramatically, and a lot of that is thanks to the technology. 15, 20 years ago, it wasn't really as much of an option. It was starting, and there are some people I talk to, for example, sales roles. People often think of sales roles. Those are pretty traditional jobs, yet they are done remotely or en route. Certainly they're doing in-person meetings while they're going, but they're working when they're on the road, and that is remote working. Nowadays, even if you do an in-office job, that's a standard traditional 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 job, most people don't only work at their desk in their office. They're working on their smartphones or on their iPads or laptops from home or on their commute. And that is also remote working. People
Exactly.
don't really, it's kind of interesting and frustrating, to be honest, that the reality of what is already happening in the workplace and what employers are already allowing employees to do and actually expecting them to be available after hours, for example, is not actually in line with employment policy or acknowledgement that there's a telecommuting component to these jobs. So that's kind of a side note. It's something that we deal with regularly, but the simple fact is that remote work and working from home is already infiltrating into even the most traditional jobs. And it's only going to be growing because there's so many different reasons for it that make sense. Certainly work-life balance it consistently is at the top of any survey we offer to our job seekers, why they want a flexible job.
Well, exactly. And like what you had said before, women out there are educated, and business women. I mean, most of us who have kids didn't lose our brain. Well, all of us didn't lose our brains and lose our ability to work as soon as we gave birth. Yet somehow, as soon as someone calls us a mom, they start demoting the value of a woman right away. It's just phenomenal. You'll hear people say, "Oh, just a mom," or the whole mummy tract concept, but just so much verbiage around devaluing a woman's ability to provide value to a company and to a business as soon as you start calling her a mom. It's phenomenal. And I see this all the time because obviously we are 5 Minutes for Mom, our whole audience, we talk about moms, but it's unbelievable to me, the negative connotations that sort of go along with, oh, you're just a mom.
It undermines the professionalism of a woman, in my opinion, and it actually was a thought process. And some of the people that I was talking with when I was first creating FlexJobs, and I had just had my first son 3 months before. We'd been brainstorming and laying the groundwork and researching it, kind of before that and somewhat during that phase, although I was a little sleep deprived and had some baby brain going on for sure. But when we were looking at kind of what we were going to name the company and what our strategy was, I made a conscious choice to not name it, Mom, Jobs for Moms. And it's not that that's a bad name, but the simple fact is as a professional woman, I don't need to be reminded that I'm a mom. I know I'm a mom. I'm a woman. I'm a person looking for a professional job. It doesn't really affect, and it shouldn't affect my job search. And so that was where, I think work flexibility and work from home jobs or telecommuting jobs, whatever kind of flexibility you're looking for, has no correlation to whether you're a mom or not. There are people who want flexible work jobs because they have an older parent they need to take care of, or they have a family member that they're taking care of, or they have health issues of their own. Or maybe they're a military spouse who moves around and needs location neutrality for that reason. There are people, especially when the recession hit, who if you live in a hard-hit area or a small town in the middle of nowhere with limited job resources, being able to look further outside of your immediate geographical area is a huge benefit. So there's men and women alike, there are a lot of reasons people want to have a telecommuting option to their job. And I didn't want it to be a constant. It wasn't about being a mom. It can
exactly.
be.
I love that.
Definition.
Yeah, no, I love that. And that's so smart that you did that. Exactly. Okay, so tell us now then a little bit more about FlexJobs and how you would participate in your site as a job seeker.
There's two different things to explain. One is that overall, to have full access to our site, we are a low-cost subscription site. So we, month subscription, although we have a promo going on that we're announcing tomorrow, but I'm happy to share for July 4th, 50% off any subscriptions to celebrate independence and freedom of work and freedom to work wherever you want, for example. And so if you use the July 4 promo code, you can get 50% off. But a month subscription, for example, is $14.95. Or $7.50 with a discount. And then we offer 3-month and annual subscriptions as well. That is for full access to the database of hand screen jobs, all of the company information, all of the current jobs listed, as well as the past jobs listed with those companies, and the most direct way to apply to those jobs. And we have almost over 15,000 jobs on the site at any given point. We just dipped below that because we did a good cleaning this week. But which we do regularly to keep the database really fresh and minimize any dead links that happen. You can also come and check out the site as a free user. We have a lot of free information. For example, we have the most comprehensive resource if you want to research companies. So if you want to research companies who have hired for telecommuting or other flexible jobs in the past, you can search by state, category, or other criteria. And find the top 100 lists of those companies. So if you're located in California, for example, and these are mostly US based, although we have an international search also, but they will show you all of the jobs in that area, or all the marketing jobs, for example, you can search by. And then it'll show you the individual company and all of the specific job titles that they've hired for and what kind of flexibility they offered. So it's a great research tool if you're looking for a company that hires and what they might be likely to hire for in the future. Or maybe currently, and that could be an idea if you want to subscribe. We do definitely offer a full satisfaction guarantee. If anyone's ever not satisfied, just ask for a refund, and we're very liberal with that. We want our users, again, it ties back to integrity. We want our users to find value in our service, whatever that means to them. Ultimately, we want to help you in your job search, make it easier, faster to find those qualified job leads that match your interests, and make it easier and faster for you to apply and then hopefully get a job. We have job listings in over 50 different career categories, entry level to executive. We specialize in different kinds of flexibility. So in addition to work from home jobs, there are jobs with different telecommuting options. So you might go into the office 3 days a week, you might have to train on site for the first month, and then you can work from home. There's a lot of different variations. And we also offer freelance jobs, part-time jobs, flexible schedule, and alternative schedule jobs. So it's pretty much anything that's not an on-site, full-time traditional schedule job we should have on our site. And we found things like remote neurosurgeon jobs and physician jobs, lawyer jobs, teacher jobs that are, PhD level in some cases, and then all the way down to entry level. So it really runs the gamut, and there's a lot of depth and diversity to the jobs, more than people might think as a viable career option for them.
Yeah, I love the way it looks like you guys have really flipped the way that you're coming at this to be very focused as your customer being the job seeker. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that, because at first some people might be like, well, wait, why should I have to pay to look through the classifieds type of thing, right? But because normally a typical, like, say for example on Monster, like, jobs looking there, or if you were looking through, like in the old days, the classifieds in the newspaper, it was the job, the company offering the job who paid for the listing, and then the person who's reading the classifieds is reading it for free. Now this is flipped, right? Now, do your job, the companies pay, or is it just the job seeker? And I don't think it's a bad thing, and and I want to talk about the positive side of this, because your customer is the job seeker. So tell me a little bit more about this.
You're exactly right. So we basically, in the market, we're like the 1% who charge job seekers. 99% of our competition and job boards are free. So what that first tells you is that for us to grow and perform and thrive, we have to be doing something pretty different and of value. And again, we're very liberal with our refund policy, so we have to be doing it even better. Yeah. We started initially as I kind of had mentioned, I had a company, back in the late 90s, mid-late 90s, and it had been a more traditional model. It was free for the job seekers, and we had big contracts with employers. When I launched this company, conceptually, I would love to make it free for job seekers as well. But what happened when we launched that way is that we were getting a lot of job seekers who were pretty half-hearted about the process. They would fill out a profile, kind of a little bit, and then apply to everything on the site because it was so easy to do, and why not? They weren't really being good job seekers. So the quality on that side wasn't awesome, and then the employers, it was very difficult to reach out to the employers. I've known that from the past, but particularly with work from home jobs, which is actually how we launched exclusively, most companies don't have a HR person or a recruiter or a department that handles work from home jobs. They're usually mixed in. Whereas my previous company was entry level, and most HR departments do have an entry level campaign. So in this case, we were really having a hard time reaching employers. We're getting pretty low quality candidates. On top of it, we were having to beat spammers off with a stick. They were the ones who were coming and paying to post constantly, and it was a real nightmare on our billing end. It was messy. So we, about 9 months into the company, we had to make a pretty hard decision of what were we wanting to accomplish and what are we going to do that. And I looked at, we're getting job seekers, but we weren't converting them and giving them the better experience that we wanted. So we looked at that and we decided to flip-flop the model. We weren't the first people to do this. Again, there were some other very small sites that were doing this in the work from home market. And on a broader scale, there was a company called ladders.com that was doing it in the 100K plus job market quite successfully at the time. So we looked at that, and what we are offering is a premier service. We're not for everyone. Again, 99% of our competition is free. So if you want to use free sites, you have more than enough option to do that. But if you're not satisfied with those, and I know I wasn't when I was looking at those sites for these kind of jobs, we offer we offer our users an excellent time savings, reduced stress, and we help them find these jobs faster and easier than most other job boards because we specialize specifically in this niche. And to explain a little bit also the value or what happens in our process is that in order to hand screen all of these, we have a pretty big team of researchers, job researchers that go out every day as if they're a job seeker. And they essentially pound the pavement for you. They do the exact process of going out, and we've fine-tuned it, and we have a whole lot of tricks, and we've been doing this for a long time, so we've got a really fairly efficient way of doing it, but it's still the same painful process. They're going and looking at these companies, finding the jobs that offer flexibility, making sure the company's legitimate, doing research on them. Once we vet them and go through that whole process, only then do we add a job listing to our site, and we essentially direct the user back to the original job posting, but it's vetted. They can know 100% confidently that it's a legitimate job. So
That
it's
is,
time
yeah,
consuming.
that's excellent. No, I'm really impressed with it. And I'm going to say, when I first heard of FlexJobs, my immediate assumption for anyone in that whole field, we automatically think, well, how legitimate, you know? And then
And it
I
should.
dug
It
deeper, and
should.
at first, yeah, and at first you might sort of have that, well, wait, why would job seekers pay? But then I absolutely thought about it longer and figured, yeah, no, this makes sense because this is your customer. And that is actually a very powerful concept that
Mhm.
you have chosen your customer to be the job seeker, and that is very profound, and I really like that. I have a question here from one of my Canadian readers, Shannon. She's wondering, what about hiring Canadians? And even though if a lot of, oh, she says, oh, never mind the answer. She found her answer on the About page, but maybe you could talk just a little bit briefly about Canadians, just quickly.
Sure, absolutely. So Canada is probably our second international market, or our first international market from the US. I will admit it's a tough market. It's harder to find a lot of companies that are hiring for large volumes of people or to get a ton up there. But what I recommend for Canadians, and we do have jobs that are specifically for Canada and are companies that are only looking to hire Canadians, although they are a small fraction, I mean, overall of our whole database. But we do have companies that are looking to hire from anywhere, and those will be global jobs. So I recommend looking under the Work From Anywhere category on our locations page, or on the job search results, there's a little like globe icon. And those are jobs that you can be in any country, doesn't matter. And those we have a pretty good amount of. So I would keep those in mind. And as we list on the About page, what we do get questions about international, and I'm the first to admit we are not. I mean, the U.S. is our primary market right now. We absolutely do open the doors to other jobs and job seekers, and we've had people find jobs through FlexJobs in Canada, in New Zealand, in Australia, in Italy, in UK, in France. So quite a lot of different places. But it is a little more challenging. So we reiterate in that area that if you're not satisfied or you're not finding what you need, ask for a refund. No problem.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about the scams and how using FlexJobs helps you to avoid that entirely. Tell me a little bit more about what you guys even look for. What are the red flags to know whether something is scammy or legitimate?
Absolutely. There's a lot, unfortunately. The first thing to say is that people often think, oh, I can see a scam a mile away. No problem. I'll be able to pick it out. I cannot tell you how many of these are good. Unfortunately, scammers are abundant because they're good and they get people. And that's how they make their money, and that's how they're spending money. And they post jobs on Monster, and they post jobs on Career Builder. And both of those companies have had to send out mass apologies to their database because they've fallen subject. So this is not something that it's not going to be as obvious as you think. I mean, there are scammers who have entirely copied and created domain names. So you'll go to, they'll list, it's with United Healthcare, for example, and I don't mean to pick on them, but they are a common one we see. And the scammer will have created a domain name that says unitedhealthcare-inc.com. If you don't pay attention to that, they'll duplicate what the site looks like. They'll even use names of executives at that company saying that's their email address, but just at this other domain name. So they really fabricate a pretty deep woven story for job seekers, and you think you're applying to the real thing. There's a lot of these on CNBC that have happened as well. So work from home, and it takes you to a site that shows that CNBC has endorsed it, as have all these other people, and really it's cnbc.com or /com.com. They do all kinds of funny things with domains. So the first thing is it's not always going to be as obvious as you think. Some of the more obvious things in job postings, though, are first, if it doesn't have a real job title. So as you're looking through the results and it just says, work from home, make $1 million. That's not professional. That's not really a job. So bypass those immediately. Similarly, if it has a lot of marketing copy, a lot of exclamation points and all caps and things of those nature that aren't really professional and that you would expect to see in a job listing. A job listing will usually have a description of the company. It'll include the company name, ideally. It will have skills required that sometimes can be a really long, tiresome list, but they'll usually have some pretty specific skills and how to apply. They'll often have contact information for the company. those are, if it doesn't have those things, red flag. And any one of these don't mean that it's a scam immediately, because I've seen good companies who just didn't realize they were doing something wrong, but it's a good red flag. That brings me to, if it doesn't have the company name listed, that some companies prefer to remain anonymous, especially startup companies sometimes want to be in stealth mode. But it's a red flag, and because you don't know who you're sending your application to. So just on Craigslist, when you have an anonymous email that it generates and you're sending to, or if it's using a generic at Gmail or at Hotmail email address that you're sending your application to, they can be claiming they're with whatever company and you have no idea who you're sending your information to. So that's a red flag. There's so many. it's unfortunate.
And so what would one of these companies that I never even thought or known that they would do something like copy that whole website and have the people's names and all of that, what are they looking for? What are they going to do with the person once they have them?
You know, I think it depends. It depends how much information they get from you as well. Obviously never include any financial information. Anything that starts to mention Western Union during the job application process, big red flag. They're asking you to wire money. And some of them, again, can be pretty savvy. Oh, well, we're going to send you a free computer for your job, you know, as part of your role, but you need to pay to install this specific software for $400. Anything that asks for any money. If they ask any personal information, I mean, if they ask your birth date on that, if they get your birth date and your address, and you know, they can use that information and try to gather other things. They can call, you know, it ties together with broader scams. In that case, it might not be a specific job scam that they're ultimately trying to get you on, but there's a scam going on in my local community where I've heard that people call you, say that something's happened, and they read you your own information. Oh, so can I confirm your phone number is so-and-so, and your address is, and your birthday is. So they have this information on you, so you trust them already. You think that they're acting in your best interest, but they don't. They've gotten it from these forms. And in that case, they can try to scam you on something else. So it's unfortunately a really broad problem. But when it comes to job postings, company name, a company domain, confirm the company domain, look at it, and then go to Google and type, like for the United Healthcare example, go to Google and type in United Healthcare, see what comes up. It's not going to be that other domain. It's going to be the real one, and then compare the two. If it's a job post, a job title that doesn't have a professional title, a lot of marketing copy, if it asks for financial information, these are all pretty good ones. You can always go into Google and type the company name and the word scam to see if anything pops up. That's a good way to research and just see if there's any banter out there about it. Again, it doesn't mean that it is for sure, but it's a red flag. And then finally, if you ever have any questions, we always encourage people to reach out to FlexJobs and send us the link, and we'll let you know if it would pass our muster, basically.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, can you hear me okay?
Well, I'm replying to a couple of questions here. Okay. I'm just going to say that discount program you mentioned, that's starting tomorrow, and so we will update that on our post.
It's actually live now. I just haven't announced it publicly.
Okay, well, don't worry. We'll update our post later with that information.
If they want to.
After. So the discount starts to July 4th type of thing?
Yeah, it actually is live right now, so if they wanted to get an early start, they're welcome to. I'm happy to share it with your audience. I'll
say it starts officially tomorrow, and we'll update after this session, okay? Sure. So let me just type this. Okay, so the discount officially is for starting July 4th. It is live, and we'll update our post with that code. You'll be able to find it at 5 Minutes for Mom, and I'm just re-putting our post link on here. So just go there. We'll update after this session. We'll update with that link. Okay. Yeah, that's crazy because of all the identity fraud that's out there. I never even thought about all of that, because often for applying for a job, don't they sometimes even, do they ask you for your social security number and stuff like that when they get deep into things, right?
Yeah, and actually some companies do it. It's starting to get less often, but we see legitimate companies asking it for that in their initial application process from time to time, and we have to explain to them that that is a 100% red flag, don't do it.
Yeah, okay.
We won't accept, unless we have had really in-depth conversations with the company and they have a very specific reason for it, like sometimes government jobs or things like that, we don't allow those on our site. But
Okay, so that's a big thing for job seekers. Do not give your social security number. And if somebody, if an employer is asking for it, you can respectfully and politely let them know that you won't actually give that information out. You know, you understand that they're likely very legitimate, but it's just become a new standard not to. And you can even refer them back to. Do you have an article or something, maybe Sarah, that you have posted up that they could sort of point an employer to say, hey, you know, it's not these days. You don't have to ask for that anymore. Do you have anything like that on your site?
Absolutely, and I can send you over the link to it.
We'll update. Again, yeah, we'll update the post that's associated with this, with that link. What were you going to say, Sarah?
I have seen employers who don't realize that they have it as a required field on their online application form. So if that's the case, the best is to either try to call the company, if you can, and ask their HR department if they could accept a resume separate to that, and include a link to this is a scam, a likely scam thing. Again, I've seen good companies do this that don't really realize what they're doing, or that it's a big red flag nowadays. But it is, you shouldn't submit it until you've 100% confirmed the company is legitimate.
Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about the types of companies who are hiring for these flexible options and the career fields that have most often these. So the companies and the career fields, what are you finding when you're out there hunting things down?
Sure. Well, again, we are very open. We have over 50 different career categories. But in terms of the top 5, for example, medical and health, education and training, sales, web and IT, administrative support, those 5 tend to be very popular. But research, nonprofit and philanthropy, marketing, writing is a huge one, editing, graphic design, there's so many different ones. There's a lot of interesting things going on with social media right now, and SEO, SEM, so that's search engine optimization and search engine marketing. And those are some really big growing fields if people are interested in them. You can get certified online. I'm not sure of the exact programs that do that, but I think it's definitely a big growing area.
Yeah, I love that you've mentioned that. Definitely the search engine optimization world or broader search engine marketing, that's kind of where I ended up coming from a little bit after I did when I was starting doing direct sales and then started coming online, and then I came across some of the information in the search engine optimization world and the info marketing world, and that's when I created my toy stores. And definitely as an owner of a store, those are kinds of jobs that you do have to hire people for. Like, you do need to find people, and now even as 5 Minutes from Mom, if we need to hire a social media person. Now we're really small, 5 Minutes from Mom, so we've hired some people, and smaller contracts and that type of thing. But it shows it's very real. These are things that website owners need people to do. They need people to do keyword research for them, write articles, contact other sites, negotiate relationships for shared content. All of that type of stuff, manage their Twitter accounts and their Facebook, all these types of tasks, those are real tasks. And that's very encouraging, because a lot of our readership and the folks that are following our site, a lot of bloggers in general, or social media enthusiasts, you guys already have these skills and you're gaining these skills. And we've created our intern program where we've brought 6 people on for the summer exactly for this purpose, because I really wanted to help train folks and give them an opportunity to show an employer real work that they've done. And I think you're going to find a lot more of these intern programs coming out these days as other sites. I know that once we launched ours, another couple of my friends who have different similar sites are launching intern programs as well, because we have a lot of value that we can give to an intern, a lot of training, a lot of real experience that then they can take and go to a higher paying job. Because at 5 Minutes from Home, I can't pay as competitively as a big company can, but I can give you that training and that work experience that you can go and take to a bigger company and say, okay, I got all these skills, I have real work experience, and now you're more competitive in finding those jobs, those new media jobs.
It's a great area, and actually, as a side note for parents, it's a great area to get into, because your children are going to be growing up and utilizing social media way beyond you can ever imagine. And it's a great way to track their activity and make sure that they're keeping it above board. I was talking with my uncle this past weekend, and he was telling me a story about one of his son's friends was over at their house and logged into his Facebook account and posted something about somebody else in a negative way, and it ended up getting back and ended up being his whole school issue, and he was called in the principal's office. I mean, it was this whole huge thing. And these are like, social media is not going anywhere. Even if we ourselves don't love it, our kids are going to love it. So it's actually an interesting career path to explore, because it can be fun for sure. And I know a lot of people who love it, who are really, enthusiasts, exactly as you said. But beyond that, it can actually help us in parenting too, which is
no, and that's very true, Sarah. I've actually already very much noticed that I mean, my kids are still really young, but they're still want to go say 3, 5, and 8, but definitely from 8-year-old now. And I discovered Club Penguin through my work, like through working with Disney, discovered Club Penguin, and then I realized, oh my gosh, this is a great site, to help teach kids how to use social media responsibly and this type of thing. So I'm already finding, and my experience with cyberbullying, that I'm learning about from social media, I'm definitely going to be applying to my parenting reservoir of skills. So I love the way you say there's definitely traditional jobs plus new types of jobs that you guys have at FlexJobs, and that are options for working at home, whether you find it through FlexJobs or find it through a more traditional sort of manner. So many careers are open. So can you toss out some of the names of what are some of your biggest companies that you work with, and do you sort of have long-term relationships with a sort of a bigger company that is often posting with you guys, or how do you do that?
Absolutely. We work with a lot of different companies. For example, Amazon signed up yesterday. We've been working with PricewaterhouseCoopers, ADP, Xerox, IBM, Ecolab, Humana, a bunch of very big companies, and then all the way down to smaller companies and medium-sized companies that are just starting. But it cuts across all industries. It's really kind of an exciting area. Companies more and more are hiring people with telecommuting options and other flexibility options. When the recession happened, I think a lot of employers, their budgets were cut too, and when they look to hire, they are not by default just going to a full-time employee role. So they've been looking more towards different options to get the same professional skill in the door, but to not have to pay full dollar for it. Additionally, as we've all realized, that if things don't just continue going up, and you take a little bump, you're able to better adapt your kind of workforce when you have telecommuters to some degree and part-time and freelance workers. So it really is win-win for both sides when you have flexible employees and part-time employees. I mean, lots of companies have always sort of, like restaurants, I know, have always been sort of bad for exploiting using part-time employees all the time, and not. I used to be a waitress for a very short, and they often would do that. Like they'll hire 2 part-time people instead of having to put a full-time, so that they don't have to give them benefits the same amount sometimes. But that's sort of the negative side of it. But then there's the positive side too, like that a lot of people, especially when you're looking for flex job, want part-time hours, and there's benefits for an employer as well for hiring part-time. There's some employers are doing it to cut corners. There's no way around that. There will always be abusers, kind of, but a lot of the companies are really integrating it as a win-win scenario, because there are short-term benefits for employers to have telecommuters, and there are long-term benefits for employers. And the short-term benefits have become much more apparent. They can save on overhead. Real estate costs, for one, are a big one. Utilities costs, all of that. Also, candidly speaking, and I don't think it's a negative, but depending on your company and how flexible you are, if you're hiring for a role and you hire somebody in Kansas or in the middle of nowhere somewhere who has the same skills by chance as somebody who lives in Toronto or New York City or a big urban area where the cost of living is much higher, you'll be able to find somebody with that same skill set for a lower cost, and that person is thrilled about that cost because it's better than their cost of living where they live, whereas somebody in an urban city wouldn't be happy with that at all.
No, that's very true.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, we've already, with 5 Minutes for Mom, we know that too.
Yeah.
You know, we can't afford to hire someone who lives in New York City or in LA because I can't even, I wouldn't even want to pay someone who lives in Vancouver where I live because I'd want to pay them more, but I can't afford to pay them more. So if I find someone in, you know, that it is in a location where the cost of living is more reasonable, they're happy with the pay, and we have a happy arrangement. So it's not a taking advantage of that person. It's that will meet their cost of living, and that's why I can work out. So I know when I was recently interviewing some people, and I had some, you know, a friend from LA, and I was just really honest up front. I'm like, you know what, girl, LA, I can't afford you. Like, just right up, I can't afford you. You're going to need too much. And the thing is, even if they'll accept the job at first, they won't stay. Because I know that they can't afford it, and even if they're desperate for the job right now and they'll take it at a low pay, I know they won't stay for long if they're like in LA or New York, because I can't afford to pay to keep up with their cost of living. But if it's somewhere in the, you know, in a state where it's a lower cost of living. So yeah, even little old 5 Minutes for Mom, we discovered that. So definitely that's a win for bigger companies, and they're going to use that strategy as well.
Yeah, and I don't, you know, I will also say I've seen telecommuting jobs for sure that pay market and or higher. I mean, it varies, but on average, I think one of the benefits when you're looking at it from an employer perspective is that you can tap a much broader pool of candidates, and that is one of the factors that can benefit a company in the short term if they're looking to save money, which most companies are. I would say that there's a lot of different perks for employers. There's numerous studies that say if you give a little bit more flexibility, well, actually they say that employees have been asked whether they'd rather have more vacation time or a salary increase or telecommuting options to their job. And telecommuting options is pretty consistently beaten the other two. It's a very desirable benefit that employers can offer at no cost to themselves really, or very little. So they're not increasing their bottom line, but they're making their employees happier. So it's a cost savings for the employer, but it's a win for the employee. So again, win-win.
Yeah, no, exactly. Even my my ex-husband, actually, the company he works with, he works at our big local telco company, so big company, and they're really encouraging employees to work from home for a couple of days for lots of different reasons, but even by retainment is a big issue, because they know that if they encourage and they don't make it, because a big thing for an employer is you don't want to have the employees feel that those who do take the option to work from a couple days at home, that their coworkers or their bosses think that they're slacking off. You know, you have to make sure that people aren't equating, oh, I'm working at home to, oh, I'm slacking off. And that comes in all sort of angles, and I think by really encouraging it, you know, from a company-wide thing, that you'll help people to understand that this is a healthy, good, positive, alternative way to get some of your work done. Increase that company morale, it increases retention and all that type of thing.
Yeah.
But also, I think that lots of times that when you are working from home, you'll find people work, I think, even harder, because they're absolutely being judged by their deliverables, not by sitting in their desk, where their computer's not showing and they can kind of be watching, you know, YouTube or whatever, and they're not being paid to sit in their desk. They're being paid for a deliverable.
Well, I think employers, you know, talk about this a lot in general about whether telecommuting is as productive as non-telecommuting jobs, and the whole Marissa Mayer and Yahoo debacle with Yahoo banning telecommuting, or supposedly banning telecommuting, because they still hire telecommuting jobs, especially in their writing department. But they it's not an issue of productivity. If you're in a company that isn't measuring productivity and providing their team members with the ways to do that and the support they need to get their job done well, that's going to be the case whether they're telecommuting or not. Yes, it might show up earlier in telecommuting, and I think that that's actually a positive bellwether that companies can use, because you'll see that their performance isn't coming in. They're not contributing the way they should be much quicker than the people in the office, who managers tend to get lazy and assume that just because they're physically present, they're working. And that's not the case. I've seen some reports that say upwards of up to 5 to 6 hours a day employees are using online shopping or social media sites or whatever and not working at all. So being on site is a false sense of security for employers. And it's not to say that I'm proposing that every company has telecommuters, 100% of a telecommuting workforce, although we are a completely virtual company, FlexJobs. So I know firsthand that productivity and collaboration and innovation can happen in a completely virtual environment. Our team members are all over the US, including one in Europe, although I think she might have been moving back this week. I think she just got back, but she's been abroad for a couple of years. And there are people I've worked with for almost 4 years who I haven't ever met in person, which it's not to say that I wouldn't love to meet them in person, but realistically speaking, we are able very much to perform together and have a great company culture without being in an office.
Exactly, and I thoroughly agree. I have never met my assistant, Jennifer. I love her dearly. I feel like I've met her because we worked together for ages and we see each other on Skype and everything all the time. That I'm like, really? Are you sure? We've never actually met. Like, are you sure? I totally feel like we must have. But absolutely, I love that. And we've talked a little bit about there. We alluded to the tools that we use together as teams, like Skype and Dropbox. I wouldn't mention that, but there's lots of different tools that we would use as employers. Like, so for myself, when I'm running my intern team or with my assistants, can we talk a little bit about the tools that they might need to work from home? I listed in here 10 tools that we might use.
Sure. First of all, you want to have a dedicated home office. That's a no-brainer. Everything from a comfortable chair that you like to a printer, scanner, fax, whatever you need. A scanner, to me, is the most important generally. A dedicated phone line. So if it's your mobile phone, that's fine, but make sure that you get great coverage. I do not get great coverage at my house, so having a hard line is really important to me. For me, I would say that one of the funny home office things that I love is dual monitors. Huge for me in terms of productivity. And then in terms of some of the online tools that I like my team members to be familiar with.
Monitors back there.
There you go. Seriously, I love them. I think they make productivity skyrocket. But I would say we use Dropbox as well. Dropbox is a great way to share files. We use a lot of Google Docs. As a free way to share documents amongst our team. It's also a great way to back up documents. You want to be careful about secure financial paperwork and things like that, but certainly it's a great backup. For backup, I use Carbonite personally, but you want to have some kind of good backup system. Yep, exactly. We use Join Me as our web meeting tool, so we have weekly staff meetings, and we use Join Me to share screens, etc. It's much less expensive than some of the others, and it's a great service. So there's a lot of different tools. You should be familiar with screen sharing and video conferencing and working in the cloud, I guess. Which a lot of professionals already are. You might not even realize it.
Exactly. I think we almost all now take for granted that so much stuff happens in the cloud. We wouldn't really even call it working in the cloud because some people don't even think of it as being called as that, but of course all my stuff is in Dropbox and Google Docs and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, yeah, so definitely we use all of those tools as well. Like you said, it's funny, the double monitor thing back there. I end up working on my laptop a lot, but down here in this office that you see that we have set up down here, I've laughed in previous sessions and admitted to my audience that I actually don't work down here very often, but we had this set up. I have 3 stations set up down here because when we were running our online stores, I'd have people working in here, right? Mm-hmm. And so definitely I found for productivity, they all had dual monitors. It really did help. And
yeah,
so for myself, I end up working on my laptop so much, so I don't end up taking advantage of that. But yeah. So a home office, yes, you mentioned a home office, and it's very interesting. I just want to point out about that. We're chatting in our previous session with 2 weeks ago with another blogger, Crystal from Crystal & Co. And we were talking about where to set yourself up working. And she was saying that when she first had a work-at-home job where she was working for an employer, she also had a kind of a room where she closed the door and an office. But then she found later when she was blogging for herself and running her own that she found she got way more done when she could be immersed right in, so she could watch her kids sort of be playing and that type of thing. And I think it's an interest, and so then I pointed out that, yeah, even though I have this office down here, I'm not often down in my office because I'm on my laptop. I often happen to be upstairs. So I think there's an important point to make that a lot of jobs, if you have a work-at-home job, there's a good argument for setting yourself up in an office, like you've said. For lots of us, when we're blogging or working at home in a really multitasking environment where we're not billing for our time, it's okay to sort of be amongst the crowd of your kids in this time. But if you are billing for your time, I would definitely recommend, having an office where you're closing the door, because if you're billing for your time, that's the most efficient and fair way to do that.
Yeah, and I would say that's actually a great tip for job seekers if you're applying to a telecommuting job. There's a lot of, and I'm not as familiar with Canadian HR law as I am in the US, but I know that a lot of questions about your family situation are off limits in HR law, such as, are you married, do you have kids, are they going to be walking into the office? And volunteering in your cover letter or towards the top of your resume that one of your skill sets in a way is that you have a quiet, dedicated office where you can focus exclusively on your job. So hopefully that will alleviate any of the employer's concerns.
That is a really good point. And I know that for myself, if I was reading that as an employer, someone hiring, that, yeah, that does sort of put you at ease a little bit, because you're right, you can't ask those questions, but you kind of want to know, but you can't ask.
Well, I ask that direct question. If somebody hasn't provided that information, I say, do you have a quiet area where you can focus on your job without interruptions? Bottom line, and that's fine to ask. But
okay, it's fine to ask it that way.
As a job seeker, if you're proactive in that, what it does is it sets the tone that that's part of the role, that you're not expecting anything different, and it's a real plus. Excellent.
Well, Sara, I have learned so much here, and it's been so great to find out more behind the scenes of FlexJobs. We're going to be talking about you guys a lot more at 5 Minutes for Mom. We wrote about and shared about your site several months back at 5 Minutes for Mom, and that was one of our writers, Jennifer, that actually had written about it, and so I personally didn't know much about you guys yet. And then Jennifer, who'd written that post several months ago about FlexJobs for us, said, hey, you should bring on Sara here onto these strategy sessions. And so that's why I started digging deeper in, and I'm like, oh my goodness, so we're going to be working as affiliates with you guys and really helping to share your resource with our readers, because I have full confidence now that I've dug in, now that I've met you and chatted with you and really found out all about how FlexJobs works and why your model of making the job seeker be your customer is really good, and we can really help put the job seeker at ease, knowing that you're there doing the hard work for them, pounding that pavement.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's one of the big things is that I've been in the online job market a long time, and I have seen how technology has helped the process, and I've also seen how it's hurt it. And I do believe that most job seekers don't have a great job search experience, and there's a lot of room for improvement in that area. And that's kind of one of the things I really, we want to help more job seekers have a better job search experience and ultimately find the jobs that they want and that fit their lives. So
I've always said that I think looking for a job is the worst thing in the whole world. Like, I think being in that position where you're looking for a job is harder than any job. It's more depressing. It's like, I think, honestly, wouldn't you say for most people, you're in this place of ultimate sort of vulnerability, and you're like, you're just setting yourself up to be judged and dismissed, and it's just just a horrible thing. And then when you add on the fact that you're trying to find something from home or something for telecommuting and flexible, then you open yourself up to scams, and it's just, honestly, it's got to be one of the worst of things emotionally where to be at.
And that's why we love empowering job seekers and giving them a tool that can truly help them, and that's for them. It is for them. We answer to them. We're not answering to employers and their job posting revenue. I mean, money is one of the dynamics that you have to run a successful business. And we are, the job seekers are paying us for this service to serve them well. And that's why it works. I know it's not for everyone, but for the people who choose to try it, it can ultimately help them a lot. So.
Absolutely. Well, without question, if I were out there looking for a job, I would definitely be using your service. I mean, now since I'm running a business, I'm not looking for a job myself, but I would, without question, I would trust FlexJobs, and I would use it for sure. So, and I'm going to be shouting about you guys loud and clear to lots of my friends. I know that one of my friends on Facebook was just saying, "Oh, she's got to start looking for something, and do I know anything?" And I feel bad because I so desperately want to have something to say to her. Oh yes, go to whatever. Now I have something I can say. Go look at FlexJobs.
Thank you. And vice versa. We're happy to help out 5 Minutes for Mom however we can too. It's a great resource.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again so much, Sarah, for joining us. And for all the rest of you, definitely come back again. We run these every other Wednesday. So we'll be back in 2 weeks, and we'll be talking lots more about working at home. Thank you, Sarah. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks, Susan. Bye.